lesson. I'm going to give you a important lesson. Like everybody need their attention for a second. So what I'm going to tell you at some point, you can thank me at another point in time, but at some point is going to save you potentially thousands of dollars, depending on how big you are. Okay. And it has to do with dividends. So yesterday, someone pointed out KHC, and they pointed out 100,000 options in KHC, and KHC went ex-dividend today. So that meant that if you were a holder of stock yesterday, then today the dividend is issued, and you're going to get paid that dividend. Okay, so if you saw those 100,000 and a couple of people looking 100,000, it has nothing to do with direction, even though they're buying calls. It has nothing to do with direction. That 100,000 is made up of basically a game that the professionals are playing to extract money from the average investor who's uneducated about options. Okay, that is essentially what's happening there. Has nothing to do. I'm going to show you the game. I'm going to explain it to you so you understand it, and I want to explain a little bit I just want to make sure that people understand when to exercise their call options. Okay, so let's discuss first the game. First, let's talk about what happens when there's an exercise. So the best way I can do it to show it live is to say, Marco, you're over there, and you're the buyer of calls, and I sold you the calls. Okay, so I'm working at an investment bank. You came to me and you bought these calls. Let's say it's $100 stock right now. Okay, but you bought these calls when it was $70. Okay, and you bought like January options or whatever, and leaps, and you had the 70 strike call. Now the option is the stock is 100. The option is worth $30. Okay, and the volatility is not that high, so it's not likely that the stock is going to go down to 70.
Right.
So these options are worth around $30 and a quarter. Say maybe the 70 put is worth like a quarter. Now today the stock is worth 100. So let's just remember that 100. You own, let's say, 10,000 options at the 70 calls. Now, when I say you could represent 1,000 people that own 10 lots. Okay, but right now it's just you, Marco, owns 10,000. Now, I am short the 10,000 options to you, call options to you, right? Over time, as the stock moved up, I was buying stock because I'm playing a different game than you. You went to the beach, the stock went up, you're happy, $30, you're sitting there very happy. Me, however, every day I was trading the stock underneath it, and by the time the stock got to 100, I've actually had to buy most of the stock to go up against the calls. So now you have 10 million options. You have 10,000 options, which is 1 million shares. I sold you 10,000 options. I actually had to buy 1 million shares over time, and I did. So now basically I'm long 1 million shares of XYZ stock, and I am short the 100 calls, the 70 calls to you. Okay, now that's a 30,000 foot view. In the middle, between us, there's an exchange, and the exchange is the SIBO or one of these options exchanges, but it's the OCC. Sorry, the OCC. The OCC is basically, you don't know. Well, you know it's me because you traded, but if it was 1,000 people trading 10 lots, they don't know who's on the other side. But again, we can not worry about who's in the middle and what they're doing. They're just sort of disseminating the options and the information between us. Okay. Now I got to introduce two other characters. Okay. One guy's name is Bill and one guy's name is John. John's on your side. Okay. John's going to be sitting on your end. He's going to be a buyer of the same calls that you have. And Bill is going to be someone who's on my side. He's the guy who's selling calls. Now, what's happening, the game that's being played. Okay. So we're going to introduce those two characters. And there's a game being played that they've sat at the table and they're going to try to extract money from you. Okay. So now you're the mark. Okay. Remember we talked about the dummy at the table, right? If you don't know what's going on, you're the dummy. Okay. So you're the mark. You own those calls and a dividend's coming. Now let's just understand what's happening. For me, I own the stock. So if the dividend passes, it goes ex-dividend date, and I'm gonna get this. I own the stock. I'm gonna get it. Let's say it's $1 dividend. I'm gonna get $1 the next day on 1 million shares, which is $1 million. Okay, I'm short calls. Okay, call options don't move with the dividend. I'm sorry, don't get paid a dividend. Okay, and don't have to give a dividend. They don't have to do anything. It has nothing to do with the dividend. It just has to do with the stock price, the option. Okay, so what happens to the stock price tomorrow? It goes from 100 to 99. So my calls are going to lose $1, right? I'm going to make $1. The calls are going to lose $1, but I'm short them, so I'm going to make $1. Okay. My stock is going to lose $1. Okay, I'm long 1 million shares. It goes down by $1. I lose $1. So net, that's even. But I collected $1 in dividends. Okay, so those three parts is what's happening to me. I collect $1, and then my stock and the options, they both move the same. So I actually, I don't make any money there, but I do take in the $1 million if I'm there overnight. You, however, if you don't exercise, you only have call options. What happens to your call options the next day? They go down by $1. So net, what happened to you? You lost $1 on 1 million shares or 10,000 options. You lost $1 million.
Wow.
Okay, you lost $1 million because you didn't exercise, because the calls only reflect the price of the stock. They don't reflect anything about the dividend. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting because I know that you don't understand options, and I'm just sitting there waiting to collect my money because I know that you're not gonna exercise, or I have a feeling that you're not. Okay. Now that's the game. If you don't exercise, you actually transfer $1 million to me on 10,000 options. Okay. So now the game that's played is Bill and John just sat down. Which side was over there? You had John. John was on your side, or Bill was on my side. So John's on your side. Let's John's on your side. Bill's on my side. Bill and John trade the night before this dividend's about to happen. I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm ready to see if Marco's going to exercise or not. If he doesn't, I make $1 million. Bill and John sit down at the table and they make a huge trade. They make a trade of 90,000 options. Okay. 90,000 options. And all they did was buy and sell the option, that same option, the 70 strike, the same one. Well, what happens? Well, that night, Bill on your side, the guy sitting right next to you, he exercises 90,000 options. Okay. You don't exercise. Okay. So now I'm like, I was right. You weren't going to exercise. The problem is Bill and John came in with playing this game where 90 out of the whole 100,000 options in the pool were exercised, which means that the OCC right in the middle, the way they disseminate who, which ones were exercised and which ones weren't, is they take that percentage. So 90% of all the options that are on the table at the 70 strike calls, they were exercised. That means me, Felix, okay, I lose 90% of my options that I had, right? I lose 90% of them. That stinks. I was expecting to get 1 million shares times $1. I only get 1,000 shares times that. So I make 100 grand on your mistake. But Bill and John, who just sat there, John now gets 90% of his shares exercised, which means 81,000 of John. John's sitting right next to me. He now has 90,000 share options that are short. For 1 day's work, he literally sat there, got 90,000. 90% of his options get exercised, which means he's left with how much? 90% of 90,000 is 81,000. He's left with 9,000 options that didn't get exercised. He makes the $900,000. I make only 100. And he just came in the last minute one day and said, here, Bill, you go sit over there. I'm going to sit over here. You exercise. I'm on your side. And as a percentage, we're going to take the lion's share of whatever Marco, you're the dummy, you're the mark, whatever Marco doesn't do. You understand?
Wow.
You understand that game?
Yes. So that's what happened in KHC.
So whenever you see these dividends and the night before the dividend, and they have to do it on big dividends, meaning they have to do it on dividends where there is a big, payout, right? Because you're playing a percentage game, and you will see hundreds of thousands of options trade, like AT&T, ExxonMobil. These are large dividends. What you need is two things. You need a large dividend. One, you need the X date coming the night before. Two, the day before, and you need a lot of capital to do that trade, because Bill and John don't just trade the 70s. What they usually do is they trade the 60-70 call spread, so they don't have to put up that much money. So they actually trade the 70s and the 60s. On the 60s, there's nobody there, so Bill exercise, or John in this case, sells the 60s. So he John buys it. So John exercises all 90,000. And Bill says, fine, that goes away. And he's left. And then we're just left with the 70s where you're involved. So you see how they jumped in? And that's what they do. That's a professional way to play this dividend game. And one of the biggest players is Susquehanna in that game. Look, they invented this game. It's smart. The way you would, they're not trading with themselves. You can't trade with the same. The legal issue is that you actually have to have two legal entities trading with each other. But that's what they do. It's not an easy. You need a lot of capital. It's not always. You got to spend a lot of money on software finding the pockets. Again, what you need is the X dividend. You need a large dividend, and you need a strike, right? That is in the money that retail investors, the average investors, uneducated investors were buying, and that they're still holding. So someone like Citadel will know exactly where those are, right? The night before the dividend, they say, look at that one, look at this one. And each open interest with a lot of open interest, a lot of retail, that would represent dollars. They would say, there's a $1 dividend, there's 10,000 contracts. That's $1 million up for grabs. Now, some retail investors will know, and they'll say, okay, we got to get out of this. Now, the question is, when do you exercise? Because that's the next question is, when do you? So I'm going to teach you very quickly when you exercise. Essentially, in this game, you're really only going to exercise when an option is deep in the money. But that's just the first criteria. The call option, not the puts, call option. Puts too, but it's got to be way in the money. It's not good. You just focus on the calls. Call and the dividend. Call options, okay, deep in the money, okay, and essentially the time value that's left in the call option has to be lower. To exercise has to be lower than the put value of that same. So in this case, the 70 calls we're talking about in our example, we said the option was worth 30 and a quarter. There was a quarter of time value. The question is, how much is that 70 put worth, right? Because when you exercise, you're giving up the optionality, which means you're giving up that little put, that value of the put. So you got to compare the value of that put and the time value of your call option. In our case, it was a quarter, and I have to compare that with the put. Now, that's really the game. So really, and another way, an easier way to do that is to look at a lot of these brokerages. They have a delta there. When you're looking at your option, if the option is 100 delta, okay, 199, 100, then it's likely that it's an exercise. So that's one check. You can just simply go, what's the delta of the option? If it's 100, okay, the second check would be how much time value is left. In our case, a quarter. How much is the put worth? The 70 puts only worth 10 cents. All right, I'm gonna exercise that trade. I'm gonna exercise that option. Okay, so that's really what we're looking at. It's basically how much is the put worth, because that's what you're giving up.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
So
nice.
There's a lot there, and I really wanted to explain why you exercise, and then this game, because you see it a lot, and a lot of times people say, "Oh my God, there's 100,000 call options in KHC or in this or that." You just basically, if you look on the board here, see these dividends, they happen tomorrow. So yep. Goldman Sachs, L&T, McDonald's, Nike, some of these options, some of this options volume here is probably playing this game to capture the dividend. Okay. And they can do it in January option, like way in the money January options. They can do it in. So you can sort of disregard a lot of the volume you see in these names on the call side in the money options.
Okay.
Okay. Is that fair?
Yes. Nice.
All right. So that's how look, there's many times people they're trading, they have a 20 lot or a 10 lot and it's in the money and they don't exercise. 1,000 options, you lose 80-cent dividend. That's $800 that you would lose. And there's no recourse. You didn't exercise and you're supposed to exercise, you lost $800. So when you exercise, just remember me and remember that you learned that from me, and I just saved you a lot of money, because it is a lesson. People don't learn about the dividend exercise until one day they say, my account's down $1,500 or $2,000, and what happened? This is impossible. I didn't even trade and nothing moved and there's nothing going on. Every option is exactly the same, but it's the dividend that you didn't do what you're supposed to do with the option, and you just lost. You lost money. And there's no recourse. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
That was great. Didn't I wonder if anybody in the chat actually had this happen to them? That would be interesting,
Yeah, maybe where's Dwayne? We'll try it again. But go look at it a couple of times, and then you can ask me a very direct question, Dwayne. It's not the easiest thing to it's definitely not the easiest thing to understand and know, but I think I think that it's important. It's important to understand, let's say, and it will save you money when there is a dividend. All righty.
Okay, cool.
Awesome,
Nice.
man. All right,
Nice.
cool.
By the way,
What else is-
just everybody's screaming this AMC. It's almost up to $28.
I'm looking at it right now.
yeah,
Hold on, let me. Where is it? Right, 27.
73.
Wow.
Yeah.
27. Holy cow! Is that right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, people are making a lot of money, so that's always a good thing. Wow, that's crazy. That is absolutely. This is like GME Part 2. But all right.
Right.
So look, that it's really an important lesson. It's one of the most important lessons for retail investors that they don't understand. So if you have questions, you can ask me questions tomorrow. But go through that a couple of times. Go through exactly what I was trying to say, and then we bring back those questions tomorrow, and we can talk about it. It's really important to understand, and it's really important to get it right, because it will save you a lot of money over time. Okay, you don't want to make it's the dumbest mistake you can make in options, not exercising when you're supposed to, or just getting out. You can either do one of two things. If you have a call option and it's about to get, you can either roll to another strike, but you have to get out of that one. That is an exercise. Get out of that, get into stock, or get out of that and get into another call option further out.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Nice.
All right.